The rain beat against Dax's weathered truck with a steady, rhythmic thrum. He was used to working in harsh conditions, his hands constantly smeared with grease from years spent as a mechanic. But today the rain felt different. It seemed to weigh on him, as if it knew he was struggling. After losing his job at the auto shop 2 months ago, Zach had been scraping by with odd jobs, trying to make ends meet. His routine was predictable: wake up, find work, and keep his head down. That was until he noticed her. A silver sedan, stranded on the side of the road, its hood popped open. The woman sitting behind the wheel looked frustrated, her shoulders slumped in defeat. Zach's first instinct was to keep driving. He had enough on his plate, after all. But then he saw her struggling to get out of the car, her umbrella flipping inside out as the wind picked up. Zach pulled over, the tires of his truck sending a splash of water toward her. He rolled down the window and called out, "You need a hand." The woman, her dark hair plastered against her face, looked up, startled but relieved. "My car won't start. I think the battery's dead." "All right, I can take a look," Zach said, stepping out of the truck and grabbing his tool bag. As he worked, he noticed her carefully watching him, a mix of curiosity and gratitude in her eyes. She introduced herself as Gabby, explaining that she was new to the area. Zach worked quickly, the rain making everything feel a bit more urgent. In less than 10 minutes, the engine hummed to life. "Thank you," Gabby said, her voice sincere but hesitant as she reached for her purse. "Let me give you something for your trouble." Zach shook his head, smiling. "Nah, no need for that. Just pay it forward next time. That's all." Gabby raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. "You sure?" "Yeah," Zach interrupted gently. "Just promise me you'll help someone else out when you can." Gabby hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I will, I promise." Zach waved as she pulled away, feeling good about the small act of kindness. Little did he know, it would change his life forever. 2 days passed, and Zach had nearly forgotten about the woman in the rain. Life had a way of keeping him busy fixing an old lawnmower, checking out a car for a local farmer, and trying to figure out how to pay off the bills that were stacking up. But on the third day, his routine was shattered in the most unexpected way. Zach was tightening a bolt on an engine in his garage when the sound of blades slicing through the air caught his attention. He looked up, confused, and saw a helicopter descending toward his property. His heart skipped a beat. The only people who flew into his rural neighborhood were rich folks looking to buy land or occasionally news choppers covering a local story. But this was something different. The helicopter touched down on his yard with surprising grace, the noise from the blades slowly dying as the craft settled. Zach stood frozen, unsure of what was happening. A sleek black car pulled up beside the helicopter, and 2 sharply dressed men stepped out. They were dressed in suits that looked too expensive for a place like this. One of the men approached Zach with a briefcase in hand, his face impassive. "Zachary James?" he asked. Zach nodded cautiously. "Yeah, that's me. Can I help you?" "We're here on behalf of a woman named Gabby Stokes," the man continued, his tone professional, almost too formal. "She's requested your presence at her estate. You've been invited to dinner." Zach blinked, taken aback. "Wait, what? Gabby Stokes, the woman from the other day?" "That's correct," the man replied. "She's asked us to bring you to her. If you'll follow us, we'll make the arrangements." Zach's mind raced. Was this some sort of joke? Had he unknowingly done something that merited all of this? Before he could question it further, the other man handed him a set of keys. "These are for the car," he said simply. "Gabby's instructions. She wants you to come in style." Zach's gaze flicked between the car and the helicopter. I don't understand. I just helped her with her car. She didn't need to." "You'll understand when you get there," the man interrupted. "Please, come along." Still in a daze, Zach climbed into the car. He had no idea what was going on, but the sleek, luxurious interior of the vehicle felt oddly comforting. As they drove through the countryside, Zach could barely focus on the scenery. He couldn't shake the sense that his life was about to take a dramatic turn, but he wasn't sure for better or worse. The car wound its way through a private estate, the trees thick and looming on either side as the mansion came into view. It was massive, a sprawling estate that looked like something straight out of a historical drama, complete with a grand entrance, sweeping staircases, and elegant columns. The driver stopped in front of the massive doors, and Zach stepped out, his heart racing. He had no idea what to expect, but the grandeur of the mansion left him feeling small and out of place. The door opened before he could knock, revealing a tall, middle-aged woman with sharp features and a commanding presence. Gabby. She stood in the doorway, dressed in an elegant black dress, her dark hair pulled back into a neat bun. Her eyes were warm, but there was something distant about the way she looked at him, as though she were sizing him up. "Zach, thank you for coming," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Please, come in." Zach hesitated but stepped across the threshold, his boots clicking on the polished marble floors. The inside of the mansion was nothing short of opulent, with grand chandeliers hanging overhead, antique furniture, and the unmistakable scent of expensive perfume mixed with the faint trace of wood and leather. I didn't expect all of this," Zach said, glancing around. "I was just helping you with your car." Gabby smiled, but there was an odd sadness in her eyes. "You were more than just a mechanic to me that day, Zach. You showed me something that I've been searching for my whole life: kindness without expectation. People like you are rare. I wanted to show my gratitude in a way that might help you." Before Zach could speak, a servant appeared with a tray of drinks. Gabby gestured toward a seat by the fireplace, and Zach awkwardly sank into a leather armchair, still trying to process everything. She joined him, her expression serious now. "I've been watching you, Zach. I've been following your life. Your struggles, your hard work, your determination. You're different from most people I know. And because of that, I want to offer you something." Zach raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? I'm just a guy who fixes cars." Gabby leaned forward, her fingers steepled in front of her. "That's what makes you perfect. Money, success, those things have never brought me happiness. I've tried everything to fill the emptiness, and yet it always feels like something's missing. But when I met you, I realized it's not about the money. It's about the moments of grace, like the one you gave me. And that's why I'm offering you something that might seem overwhelming at first." Zach felt his pulse quicken. "What exactly are you offering?" Gabby gestured for him to wait and then stood up, walking over to a table where an envelope lay. She returned with it and handed it to him. "I'm offering you financial security, Zach," she said, her voice steady. "A check. A life-changing amount of money. Enough to take away all the burdens, to never worry again." Zach opened the envelope and pulled out a check. His eyes widened as he read the number written on it. It was more than he could ever dream of. "I can't accept this," he said, his voice thick with disbelief. "I didn't help you for money." "I know," Gabby replied softly, "but you've already given me what I needed. This is my way of giving something back, and there's more." Zach looked up, confused. "More?" Gabby nodded. "I'm offering you a job, a position here working with me. You're skilled, and I need someone with your talents. Together we could make something bigger than either of us could on our own." Zach stood up, his head spinning. "I don't know what to say. This is too much." Gabby smiled. "You don't have to decide now. Take some time, think it over. But know this, Zach, you've already changed my life. Let me help change yours." Zach left the mansion that evening, his mind in turmoil. He had never considered his life could take such a turn. But now the weight of Gabby's offer was pressing down on him. Could he leave behind everything he knew, the small town, the routine, the simple life? Or should he seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? For the first time in years, Zach felt both terrified and excited at the same time. For the next few days, Zach kept to his usual routine, but everything felt different. The town seemed smaller, the faces more familiar, yet all he could think about was Gabby's offer. He found himself staring at the check she had given him, wondering if it was the key to the future he had always dreamed of, or if it was a trap. As he worked on the engines in his small garage, the familiar sounds of his tools were oddly comforting, but they no longer felt like enough. The weight of the decision gnawed at him. Every time he tightened a bolt, every time he wiped the sweat from his brow, he imagined what his life could be like if he took Gabby's offer. A new car, no more worrying about bills, no more sleepless nights wondering how he would pay for the next repair. But what would he lose? Zach had spent most of his life living on his own terms, even if those terms were often shaped by struggle. The town had always been his home. His friends, though few, were loyal. There was comfort in knowing everyone and everything around him. But was that enough? Was he willing to trade everything familiar for an unknown future, no matter how promising it seemed? He found himself back at the mansion a week later, standing in front of the grand doors again. Gabby was waiting for him, a calm smile on her face that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Zach," she greeted him softly, stepping aside to let him in. "I'm glad you came." Zach nodded, swallowing hard. "I've thought about it. A lot." Good, Gabby said. Take your time. There's no rush. He followed her into the lavish sitting room, the fire crackling in the hearth. The room was warm, a stark contrast to the coldness he felt inside. His heart pounded as he took a seat across from her, the decision weighing heavily on him. I'm ready, Zach said finally, meeting her eyes. Gabby's face lit up with hope, but she didn't rush him. You've made your decision. Zach leaned forward, his hands clenched together. I've been given a lot to think about, and I've decided I can't keep living like this. I've been stuck for too long. I've had enough of just scraping by. I need to take a leap, so I'll accept your offer, Gabby. I'll work with you. A smile spread across Gabby's face and her eyes softened. I knew you'd make the right choice, Zach. You'll be great here. Zach felt a rush of relief mixed with uncertainty. There was still so much unknown, but in that moment, he realized that staying the same was no longer an option. The future, for better or worse, was now in his hands. The next few months flew by in a blur of change. Zach settled into his new life, learning the ins and outs of Gabby's business. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt, moments where he questioned if he was out of his depth. But with every challenge, he grew. Gabby, despite her wealth and power, was patient with him, guiding him through the learning curve. She became a mentor, and in some ways a friend. Zach found himself starting to see the world through different eyes. The life he had once known, the small garage, the quiet town, had started to feel like a distant memory, a chapter in his past. He had become part of something bigger, something that allowed him to dream again. And as the months turned into a year, Zach realized that the small act of kindness he had shown that rainy day had indeed changed everything. Not just for Gabby, but for him as well. He had stepped into a new world, one filled with opportunity, but also with the responsibility of making sure the kindness he had received was passed on. One evening, as Zach was finishing up some paperwork at the mansion, he paused and looked out at the vast estate. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue across the sprawling grounds. He thought back to that moment in the rain when he had helped a stranger, never imagining that it would lead him here. But it had. And as he watched the sky change colors, Zach felt a sense of peace settle in his chest. He had made the right choice. His life had been transformed, and it all started with one simple, unexpected act of kindness. It was a reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures can change everything. So if you love the story, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and comment below. Your interaction helps us grow.